And we are back now with a Fox News alert. Areas of Los Angeles are now under a curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. as protesters have been clashing with police for days. House Republicans have already launched an investigation into Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass for failing to contain the chaos, while the far-left media is now running cover for the protesters. Watch.
I want to reiterate, this looks very intimidating. This has remained 100% peaceful as far as I have seen. They're messing with the horses. Guys, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's back up here.
Time and space.
Whoa. Let's go, let's go.
And while LA burns, the media is insisting that everything is peaceful.
As you can see here, this is a peaceful protest. We the people serve no king. How you guys feeling?
Horrible.
Horrible. What was it like to hear those flashbangs just now?
Unnecessary. It was peaceful. We were in front of the federal building. We were peaceful.
Throughout the entire time we've been out here, people chanting, singing, dancing, remaining peaceful as they make their thoughts known, their voices heard on the Trump administration.
And it's not just LA. Anti-ICE riots continue to rage across the country. Last night, police in Seattle were forced to use tear gas to protect themselves, while rioters in Portland broke into an ICE facility. Multiple police officers were reportedly injured there. Now we're starting to learn more about the people involved in these riots, like this gentleman, illegal alien Emiliano Garduna Garcia. He was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an ICE officer in LA. These riots are all in support of the illegal migrants nabbed by ICE, whose crimes span from human smuggling to lewd acts with a child. And the left still insists that these protests are peaceful. You know, Dr. Siegel.
The protests have been largely peaceful, and much of the violence has been that does exist, has been provoked by the presence of officers on the streets that was completely unnecessary.
To say the city is burning is an insult. It's all a farce.
I flew over each one of them, and they were overwhelmingly peaceful.
And the media is pushing the same false narrative. A study from the Media Research Center shows that from June 11th to the 12th, CNN and MSNBC personalities insisted the anti-ICE demonstrations were peaceful 211 times.
Say it one more time.
211 times they were peaceful. Dr. Siegel, how can they do that? Is it that they're not seeing the same video images that we have all been seeing and covering for the better part of a week, more than a week now at this point? The Molotov cocktails that we're hearing are being hurled, the chunks of brick and concrete hurled at police officers. What gives? Why can't they talk about what's happening?
I think what they're doing is deliberately parading a camera on a peaceful street, showing 2 or 3 people and say, okay, pose, you're peaceful here, and deliberately staying away from the tear gas or the areas where they have to suppress violence. I mean, where's this starting from? It almost relates to our first topic, which is what's wrong with ICE, trying to do its job, which people that come into the country illegally. We're trying to bring the country back to a place with borders. It's okay to protest that, but don't try to pretend it's being done completely peacefully. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles, CHRLA, they're saying that they're actually being intimidated by the police or by people trying to keep the peace. I check with emergency rooms throughout the state of California. They're not. That's not happening. So it's not that there's an intimidation or a violence on behalf of people trying to keep the peace here. That's not happening. And for sure, these are not completely peaceful protests.
And when you take a look out, speaking to the intimidation, Taylor, that Dr. Siegel just brings up, of course, we see law enforcement there. But when you take a look at some of the folks that are showing up to these protests, I was looking at photos and video earlier, faces covered, heads covered. They don't want you to know who they are.
Right.
They're using shields to build up their own barriers, using parking signs that say no parking here to kind of protect themselves. They're the ones that look pretty intimidating.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you brought up, who goes, the people who were there, the images that we're seeing, because I was talking with a lot of friends of mine, and first of all, 77 million people actually did vote for this. So as much as my friends on the left, I have a lot of them, they keep saying after every time Trump wins, they go, okay, I'll listen. Let me listen. Let me open up my ears and see if I can try to understand the right. And then they all go to these protests because they're not listening. What I keep telling them is 77 million people actually did indeed vote for this. And this is a winning polling issue. If you look at all the polls, Griff, you know this from your time at the border, from January till now, this is a winning issue. But for me, Lydia, too, I always come back to the fundamentals of how I want to spend my weekends. It's faith, family, and friends. And I have a lot of friends who don't have faith or a nuclear family unit, and so they turn to politics as their faith. So when their candidate loses, that's like their God losing, and then they go out and protest because they can't handle it. For me, I'm still centered in my faith that if my candidate loses, I can still have a nice Saturday not protesting, but with my family and engaged in my faith. There's a certain sense of centeredness, I think, that some of people on the left lack, and they don't know how to cope, and so they decide to protest because they have nothing else going on.
Griff, I'm sure you've covered in your extensive career here with Fox News. I'm so glad you're here. But many a protest, many a riot, many of what we're seeing here, these types of demonstrations, and what we're hearing from Democratic lawmakers who are defending what we're seeing is that you wouldn't see these types of skirmishes, I'm sure they would say, downplaying it, if it weren't for Trump, who escalated things by deploying the National Guard, by federalizing this issue. They're kind of playing like a chicken and the egg thing, right?
Well,
Do they have a point?
I think that really, and by the way, let me just say, nothing says peaceful protest like Molotov cocktails, concrete blocks, and frozen water bottles being thrown at the officers and ICE agents, which, by the way, we are currently in a moment when there's a more than 400% increase in assaults on ICE agents. But I think, to your point, Lydia, I think it's driven by leaders like Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, talking about 1930s, comparing ICE to the Gestapo. You've got Governor Tim Walz likening to Gestapo, and you had on the local level a San Diego councilman, Sean Elo Rivera, saying that the ICE had a picture of ICE agents out on a raid, painted terrorist across it, and encouraged the public to fight back. And so the passion, as Taylor points out, is there, but the match that's lighting the blaze is really these leaders are tipping their hands to fight back, to resist.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.